Okay, I've taken out my radio. The original plan was going to be dismantling my radio and relocating the main interface board down below the cubby hole there. This was something I've been working on quite a bit with Keep Hope Alive, who has been a godsend and a great help since we were working on this. I had the factory radio schematics, so I was able to take every wire, break it down, know which signals went where, um, figure out the CAN bus system and the Honda interface system as well. My aftermarket stereo is going to be a Pioneer AVIC 8000 NEX. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll go through all the connections with you. Keep in mind, every harness that I have here that has a orange piece of tape on it, this was part of the original plan when I was going to do the relocate the radio system. And this idea came from the GM vehicles in the early 2000s. Before they had the interface modules, those were kind of the first radios that were a big pain in the butt to have to replace. So you would run a wiring harness all the way to the trunk and hide the radio there. I used to be a car audio installer about 15 years ago when I was in college, and that would be about the limit of my experience, and a little bit of college education as well, an electrical engineer, before I decided to make a career change. So let's go ahead and go down the plugs and the equipment. This is the main interface box for the 99-7804B. It has 3 connections on it. The connection here at the top is the video output for the iMid screen. The harness here is the power harness that interfaces with the main radio harness, and it has 2 tee-offs. This one, which will go to my factory, or to my Pioneer aftermarket system. Notice the shrink wrap, something I'm kind of proud of there, and always a good quality install to do it. This is the steering wheel control plug that will plug into my aftermarket stereo. This is the ASWC1 steering wheel control. Where you see that little scratch there, there's a micro USB plug to interface and update the firmware, which Metra did put out a new firmware update for this to interface with our vehicles. So if anybody does get this, please download that. As far as plugs go, like I said, main harness, this the wiring in this is not the same as the wiring if you were just to buy a regular harness without the interface. The wires are completely different, so do not buy that. You will cause quite a bit of damage. I also forgot to mention, part of the decoding process with this, since you're going to be getting power and everything into it, if you do have the amplified system, you will need to make sure you hook up the amplifier output from your aftermarket radio. This unit does supply signal for your speed sense, your dimmer, and your backup light system. The dimmer in this vehicle is actually not a true let me correct myself. Between dimmer and illumination, illumination is the interior lighting that turns on the moment you turn on the headlights. The dimmer is what controls the brightness of the interior lighting of the vehicle when you turn a dial. This main harness, there is no actual dimmer or illumination wire. It's part of the Honda communication interface. And you know that by when you have your automatic headlights on, when you start to go underneath, say, a highway overpass and it's just a little dark, you'll notice the headlights will come on, but the interior will not dim, because the sensor can tell based on the lighting once it hits a certain level of darkness, then it will turn on. So the radio decodes that, and in turn this interface decodes that. Now as far as plugs go, you have, like I said, the main harness connection. These two wires that need to be plugged in come together and go to this plug down here on the 99-7804B. These two do not need. The rest of these you do not need. Now, if you have just the regular sound system, you will have the Honda antenna back here. The people like me that have the premium system, you have to run a wire all the way to the back right C pillar, and there's the amplified antenna. So you'll need to run a power wire, the antenna adapter, and an extension wire all the way up here to plug in. And let me see if I can show you which one is the... This would actually be the antenna interface wire into the factory stereo. Don't ask me why Metra did not make an adapter for this. And out of the 4 wires here, I was able to decode which one was power, and then I was just trying to figure out the amplified, the positive and the negative, because my original plan was to solder on until I found out about the amplifier when I was going through the vehicle service manuals. Hazard wire, don't worry about any of that at all. And I should have had this out and ready. If you have the premium system, you're given an additional plug that's for the subwoofer. That would plug right into your aftermarket stereo in the back of it. And this plug would plug right into here. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start the car and we'll go through the process. What they say to do is you're going to use the steering wheel controls, which are right here, to control the display screen. The way this module works is it runs off of basically an Android operating system, and because of the entire iMid computer system being in that factory radio, this is basically, well, it is actually the entire computer now for that iMid interface. So your controls, the looks, everything will be different because none of it now is running through the factory Honda Accord system. But let's go ahead and let's start the car up. Now this was a little quirky for me originally. Now to get into the, sorry, that's my built-in radar detector, which you can see barely with my auto dim mirror. Your menu will get in like that. And, oh, of course this glare is rough. The first thing you'll want to do is go into the system settings, which you're going to push down on the steering wheel controls. And you'll have to go to Others, select Car, and then you'll go ahead and make your choice between the two. It said that it was supposed to be 2013 or 14 was one choice, and then the 2015 was different. Now I don't know what was different exactly in the radio wiring, but they labeled the two differently. As far as I know, the only major electrical difference between the 14 and the 15 was in the auto dim mirror being an option, and all that was just basically a different wire connection, which I found out when I put mine in. So we would hit the source button, which is now our menu button. And to back out of that, we'll hit the left. Now, this looks different because it is running completely on the Android system. Like I said, none of this is the iMid. So we can go into the information, which will tell, basically it looks as best as it can what our normal screen would be. Bear with me, I'm playing with some of this myself, so I'm kinda... I just put this in about 10 minutes ago. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to play around with that. Let's see. Clock wallpaper type. Well, let's try metallic. Well, we'll see how that works after I drive to work tonight. But let's back up and then go to push down to go to our vehicle settings. Now you'll see just about all of this it has are the same options. Now it looks like my only color choice is blue, but I can still make all of my changes just as before. So pretty nice there. Basic stuff. And then if you look, all of that looks pretty much familiar. Now, people were talking about the backup camera. Oops, I'm sorry. We'll go back to the clock right now, which I'm going to change that before I go to work later on. So, if you use the right turn signal...
GPS signal.
Thanks. Okay, that's interesting. Let's try to see if this backs up, because it did work before. Okay, it didn't work. Let me get back to you on this.